want to welcome you all to what is, I think, the fifth virtual tasting we've done. And we plan, in consultation with the team, to continue this year. Even if there's no COVID, we found that this is a great way to stay in touch, to meet different chateaus, and to taste a lot of good wines. We're excited today because we have 400 commanders who've signed up. We'll probably only see a portion of that because people are sitting together. But I'm also happy to welcome 100 from the next generation. We have young Bordeaux, aspiring Bordeaux lovers from the Fly Club at Harvard College, from Emory University, from Walnut Hill College of Culinary School in Philadelphia. We have young sommeliers and wine managers from around Atlanta. We have young associates and partners in a law firm ranging from Nashville to Palm Beach to Denver to Little Rock to Memphis, Miami, and to New York. So I want you to know we're living up to our aspirations about recruiting and serving and educating the next generation as we do this work. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Chateau Quintus. And in that role, we have two people who will be speaking to us. The first is Prince Robert de Luxembourg, who's the chairman of all of the Haut Brion or Clarence Dillon estates. He'll be on a video speaking to us from his home. And then we have the commercial director of all of the Haut Brion estates, who knows quite a bit about the wines, and particularly Chateau Quintus, and that's Guillaume-Alexandre Marx. So after we hear from Prince Robert, we'll turn things over in the tasting over to Guillaume-Alexandre. Tim, let's roll up.
Greetings, everyone, from Vevey, Switzerland, where I'm sitting in my little office. Delighted to be with you virtually. Sorry not to be with you in person. Thank you, Eric, for bringing us together and for your interest in learning more about the wines of Quintus, our new baby at Domaine Clarence Dillon. It is new for us in that our first vintage was 2011. Nonetheless, obviously we've been producing extraordinary wines in Bordeaux at Quintus at the three estates that we've now grouped together to be one for close to 2,000 years. So the most important way to understand this property is to come and visit us, and I hope that you will all come and join us, maybe not all at once because I know we have a big group here today, but come and join us in Saint-Emilion. Maybe walk from the village to our main chateau, which is about 15-minute walk from the heart of Saint-Emilion, winding your way through properties of Clos Fourtet and Canon and Ausone, and making your way to Quintus on the top of the beautiful plateau, overlooking Angelus also. I believe you've tasted the wines of Angelus recently, so this is very much a neighboring property. As you may have read, and as you will be told, this has now become one of the larger estates in Saint-Emilion. Of course, as we know, size is not everything, it's all about quality. And as we considered building this estate up over the years and making these purchases, it's always been my first port of call to look at the history of the wines that were produced in these three estates that we brought together. In the case of Grand-Pontet, Chateau La Rosée and Tertre Daugay, all of these were considered to be first growths of Saint-Emilion in the beginning of the last century and all the way through to about the 1950s. At Domaine Clarence Dillon, it's all about extraordinary wines. This estate was called Quintus because Quintus is what the Romans called their fifth child, and obviously we all consider our children to be equal and have the same potential as we raise them, and in this case it's very much what we thought about this property in Saint-Emilion. It should be a first growth as far as we were concerned, as great as La Mission, as great as Haut Brion, as great as our white wines of those two estates, and therefore it's our fifth great wine, thus the name Quintus. Chateau Quintus has three wines that you will discover two of today, I believe, the Dragon Quintus being the second wine, and obviously now we have a a decade behind us, and I hope you'll enjoy the tasting that has been organized for you virtually, and I hope that you will be able to, as I said, over the next year, come and see us again in Bordeaux. I wanted to thank you again and raise my glass to all of you and say Bordeaux, toujours Bordeaux, Quintus, toujours Quintus, and Eric, thank you again for bringing us together over this weekend, and I hope you have an amazing tasting, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Prince Robert. And Jennifer, what I'm going to do is introduce formally this amazing team that can respond to a challenge in less than 12 minutes. So first, I want our program manager and ACE organizer, Jennifer Mason, to say hello.
Hello, everyone. And I feel like I'm always apologizing because we always have a glitch, but at least you saw us solve it in real time. So really thrilled to be here today. So excited to taste these great wines. You guys are going to love it. It was worth waiting for, and I'm glad we can kick this off.
Scott Levy, if he's there, speak up.
I'm here.
You're here.
Hello.
Thank you again for getting all these things delivered across the 50 states.
Can I just add to that? You guys have no idea what Scott does for us with these wine samples. I mean, he literally did not go to the St. Louis board meeting because he spent all those days packing up wine for us. And then he's been on call for every problem, probably to FedEx, I don't know how many times in the last week, but we're so grateful. And he does it all with a smile and couldn't ask for more. So sorry, Eric, I just had to throw that in there.
No, absolutely. I'd like to introduce Colleen Hubbs. Are you there, Colleen?
I am. Hello.
Hello. Thank you again for all the work you've done. And finally, Tim, you want to say hello, Tim?
Hello, everyone. Nice to be with you today. And 3 Bitcoin later, we're working with more than 100 people.
That's excellent. Over 130 now. Having made all those introductions, I'm going to turn things over to Guillaume-Alexandre, the commercial director of all of the chateaus in the Clarence Dillon family.
Hello, everybody. Here in live from Bordeaux. So it's right now it's 8:20 p.m. So I think it will be really soon the time to open these tubes and to start tasting Quintus. Yes, thank you very much, all the team, Jennifer, for all you have done, Tim, Scott, Eric. This is the first time we are doing this Zoom testing. We never done this before for Quintus. Like Prince Robert said previously, it's our new baby. We have a lot of ambition for Quintus. When Domaine Clarence Dillon purchased Quintus, we created Quintus in 2011. The target was, and it's still today, to put Quintus as one of the best wine from the right bank. So to be the equivalent of La Mission Haut Brion and Chateau Brion in terms of quality, and to be at the same level of quality with Chateau Cheval Blanc, Chateau Angelus, Chateau Ausone, and Chateau Pavie, which were the first Growth A. I just want to maybe to show you a little video so that you can have a little vision of what is Quintus in terms of vineyard. And after that, we will talk a bit more about techniques, about the difference of grapes that we have in our beautiful estate. We had 3 different phases. The first one was in 2011. We purchased a beautiful estate, which previously was named Tertre Daugay. So it was approximately 15 hectares. And And in 2013, we purchased a neighbor, which was called La Rosée. La Rosée is quite famous for Saint-Emilion because Robert Parker from the Wine Advocate considered La Rosée as the Burgundy of Saint-Emilion. So a wine which was really refined, very elegant, and therefore this came from the quality of the terroir. We have three different kinds of terroir in Quintus. We have the plateau, because Quintus is located on a promontory of 65 meters above the sea level, so on the top of the hill. And this is limestone soil. Then you have all the slopes from different exposition on top, which are partially clay limestone soil. And after we have a third one, which is more clay sandy soils. So let's face it, it's maybe what is not really interesting for Quintus and Dragon de Quintus, but we are making a third wine, which is called Le Saint-Emilion. So a basic one from this kind of parcels. But the earth of Quintus, which is quite important, we are located on the beginning of the hill of Saint-Emilion. And this part, this location is called La Ceinture Méditerranéenne. In English, it's the traduction is the Mediterranean belt. So why you have this name of Mediterranean belt within Bordeaux is just because the vegetation is really looking like the one in close to the Mediterranean Sea. 75% of the estate is made with Merlot, and the rest is Cabernet Franc. We used to have a bit of Cabernet Sauvignon, but that we replaced it with Merlot because we saw that the terroir was more appropriate for the Merlot rather than for the Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's right now, as per today, it's 75% Merlot and the rest of Cabernet Franc. So as you can see, most of the red plots are Merlot, and most of them are facing the south. So they are all south facing. What is really interesting with Quintus is the two big blue plots that you have, which is called Icory West and Icory East on the top. These two plots of Cabernet Franc are facing north. So why is it important? You're aware that we have facing a little bit of global warming these days, and having Cabernet Franc with the global warming, it brings just the Cabernet Franc purely ripe, and on top being facing the north, it also brings extra freshness in the blend. That's why you're in Quintus in the recent vintages, you have a lot of Cabernet Franc because it brings structure to the wine, it brings freshness to the wine, more density, more salinity, more tension. So it's really a plus. And within the latest vintages of Quintus, you have around between 30 to 40% Cabernet Franc within the blend on the top soils of Quintus, because it's all limestone and clay limestone soil over there. And that brings a lot of beautiful density. We will test it with 2016, which is an amazing wine. I think we can move on to, I will invite all the participants to open the tubes of the Dragon de Quintus 2015 and to open the tube of the Dragon 2016. While you are opening these tubes and pouring the wine into your glasses, I will explain you why we call it the Dragon. So it's not to sell the Dragon to Asia, not at all. Even though we love Asia, don't get me wrong, but it's a Western Dragon. Our Dragon has wings. The explanation is quite simple, in fact. Like I mentioned to you, we are at the beginning of the hill of Saint-Emilion. The estate of Quintus is totally unique because we are on the top of the hill at 65 meters above the sea level. And being at the beginning of the hill, in the past, in the Middle Age, we used to have a watchtower located in this exact location. So since, like I mentioned to you, it is protected by the UNESCO since 1990, we couldn't reproduce this watchtower to pay tribute to the past. So in our Western mythology, what is protecting the castle? It's a dragon. So therefore, we have the dragon, which is our protector. So it's more the dragon of Game of Thrones rather than the dragon of Bruce Lee, if I may. Let's start with Dragon 2015. I think it's more, it's better to start with this one. I'll let you smelling the wine, and after I will comment you a bit what I can smell. I've got exactly the same tube as you. Well, the same. So I just pour it in my glass. You have two dragon. The 15 has more Cabernet Franc than the 16. We have approximately, I will make it simple. We have a 3/4 of Merlot and 1/4 of Cabernet Franc in the 15. In the 16, you have 90% Merlot and the rest of Cabernet Franc. I don't really feel, what for me is really important here is to understand the philosophy behind the Dragon of Quintus. The wine, the idea of the dragon is to have a wine which is really putting in front of you the purity of the fruit. So we have a wine which is totally spherical with very soft tannins also, because they must be very soft and very even velvety. You can smell it, but you still have this salinity which will bring you back to the glass because it's a an opulent wine, a beautiful wine. You don't feel the wood because we don't put a lot of new oak. We put only 25% new oak for a Dragon of Quintus, again to protect the fruit, to protect the freshness of the fruit. It's very important, especially with the Merlot, because you need the freshness on the wine. That's very important to have a wine which is digest, which is elegant, and this is what we are trying to do with the Dragon. So a wine very spherical in the mouth. When you have your first sip, it really takes the entire palate, and after, well, you have all the characteristics and the DNA of Quintus, which is a beautiful red fruit, mainly cherry in the taste, in the aromas, but you also have some floral aromas and some freshness brought by the Cabernet Franc. I don't know if some of you, Eric, well, maybe you can have maybe a feeling on the wine.
You know, it's pretty outstanding for a second wine. I tried the 15 and 16. The thing that strikes me as being somewhat unusual is that the 16 has a little bit more structure for me, even though it has way more Merlot.
Guillaume, I was glad to hear the percentages. We'll hear more about the 16s, but when I tasted the two of them, I was struck that, for me at least, the 16 seemed a lot smoother. The tannins were integrated, silkiness, and slight distinction from the 2015. I didn't know whether that was just the year, the weather, or the change in the cépage.
For me, it's really the vintage, because the quality of the Merlot, the difference in 16, we had more fresh nights, and this brings more freshness to the wine. You have really the spherical dimension brought by the Merlot, but yet you also have density brought by the Cabernet Franc, even though you have less Cabernet Franc in the 16 rather than the 15.
We've had a number of questions come through in the chat while we were talking, asking about how you see the maturity of these wines and optimal drinking window, aging potential. Do you have any thoughts on that for us?
Yeah, I do, of course. We never try to gauge over maturity. We want to harvest the berries when they are ripe, not overripe. We want to have freshness in the wine, to have a wine that is a wine for pleasure, to a wine that you enjoy, and you need freshness for this. Otherwise, you will not enjoy a bottle on your own, or if you share it with two people. So no, you really need to have. So what we do, of course, we do analysis in laboratory but also what is the most important, we are in the vines, in the vineyards, all our people testing the berries, eating the berries to see if the berries are ripe or not. That's the first point. After the aging potential of the Dragon de Quintus, it can easily age up to 20 years without any problem. The 11 is still pretty young, so it's 10 years. I think you can easily double the lifetime of the Dragon Quintus, easily. Maybe if you have other questions, Jennifer, maybe on a Dragon. If not, we can move on to Quintus.
Just a couple more. Really, people were asking about what you see as the difference between the two vintages. Some preferring the 16 more than the 15, and if you have any thoughts on that.
I do. I prefer the 16.
You prefer the 16?
I think the tannins are more velvety. They're a bit more, for me, the touch is a bit more elegant, even though I like the 15. And the complexity in mouth is one step higher on the 16. I have a little preference for 16. And you know, for the end of my evening, I have it in Magnum.
Excellent.
So I'm using the tube right now, and after I've got the Magnum.
But you're not sharing that, are you, Guillaume?
I've got people at home waiting for me later on to have dinner. So we'll have a Dragon. I took Dragon 16 and Quintus 16. See for tonight.
Nice.
We had a question about what percentage of the overall harvest goes into the ground wine, 20% to 40%.
It's approximately 40%. It depends on the vintage, of course. Like I mentioned to you, we test blind, and after every single vat, which correspond to a plot, we test it blind, and after we decide whether we put it in a Grand Vin, second, third, or fourth. So it really depends, but roughly, to make it simple, it's 40, 40, and 20. So 40% for the Grand Vin, 40% for the Dragon, and the rest, this 20%, either they go full in Saint-Emilion for great vintage, and after we don't sell what we consider not good for the Saint-Emilion, otherwise can be 10-10, something like this. But roughly, it's we produce 30,000 bottles of Le Grand Vin and 30,000 bottles for the second label.
Great.
Just a little history on the bottle shape, because some people really like this shape of bottle. For the story, it's the shape of the Haut Brion bottle for the mid-19th century. So this is also the DNA with the family. We consider with Prince Robert and all the Dillon families that we don't have wines, we have children. It's a family. So this is the DNA of the Dillon wines represented within this bottle shape also.
Let's move towards the Quintus Grand Vin and see what we discover.
Yes. We'll be starting with 2012, if you don't mind. You will see in the Grand Vin, the Cabernet Franc is changing the profile of the wine. You have more, I would say, more complexity. The wine is less spherical, is more rectilinear, is more structured, is more concentrated, is more precise in terms in the palate. The aftermath is longer also, so it brings more floral aromas, it brings more spiciness, and it brings more freshness. So that's why usually on the good vintages, when you can achieve with the ripeness of the Cabernet Franc and to have a good quality of the Cabernet Franc, usually, normally, even though we test blind all the different vats, usually the Cabernet Franc is bringing more into the Grand Vin, in the blend of the Grand Vin. What I really enjoy in wine most of the time is you need also, let's say, classic vintage. Because I think we need also to keep in mind that wine comes always with food. So I think it's very important to think about the pairing. And you have some dishes that will require a 15, a 16 with more density, with more volume. And you have some other dishes that you don't want to have this feeling in your mouth. You want something maybe lighter, maybe more easy to drink. And what is important, no matter the density, the volume, and the aftertaste, is to have this salinity, this little acidity that will give you the right balance of the wine, and that will invite you to finish a glass and to drink another glass. So that's for me very important. And I think the 12 has this quality. And of course, now I'm moving on to the 15. You have much more. It's a different different face of the wine. Yeah.
I mean, the texture is very different on the 15, right? So the 15 has a very elegant texture, great freshness, almost perfect balance. 16 is a bit younger, but also reflects the vintage, as you mentioned. So it has more tannic structure. May ultimately be a better long-term wine, but I think 15 is showing amazing right now. And the texture of the 15 is incredible.
I think Quintus, you have in Saint-Emilion always this little touch of a bit of sugary wine, very round, velvety. I think it goes perfectly with some meat, with some beef. Grilled beef, I think, is great. You can have also, I think the best is to make the combo between also sometimes a bit of pomme roll that is lacking in the Saint-Emilion with truffle aromas. So what I would do, I would pair it with a beautiful ribeye. I like it a bit rare with some mashed potatoes and a bit of truffle on top. I think that would be great for the 16 for me.
Could you remind us again the blends in these?
The blend is 70% of Merlot and 30% of Cabernet Franc for the 16. And we have a bit less of a Cabernet Franc in the 15, but let's say it's around the same blend.
So a slightly related question, in terms of talking about consistency, has the winemaking been pretty consistent over time, or has the cellar changed since 2011? So the question was asking also about, are you using a larger number of smaller tanks to isolate the plots? And are you fermenting at lower temperatures, being more gentle, or are things pretty much as they've always been?
No, we have been using exactly the same techniques, same as Haut Brion. The only thing that might have changed a bit is the use of the new oak. Even in the Grand Vin right now, we're using a maximum of 35% new oak because we think that we need to lower a bit the new oak to have really something that is really refined with very elegant tannins. And we need to adjust it because the Merlot and the Cabernet Franc from the right bank are not reacting the same way as the Merlot and the Cabernet Franc on the left bank. That's the beauty again of having two great varieties on two different kind of soils. So this is why we had to adapt ourselves. I think right now we are on a perfect knowledge of blending for Saint-Emilion and of aging the wines. So I think you're totally right. At the beginning, maybe some of the wines might feel a bit stronger in terms of tannins, a bit maybe harder, and they feel softer from maybe you feel it more soft and more velvety on the 16. I mean, this is why I love the 16. I mean, I would drink it every day. It's a beautiful wine. I think, yes, we're on the right track to make, I think Quintus today is really the rising star of Saint-Emilion. If you are looking for something new, for something high-end within the next 10, 15, 20 years, definitely Quintus is one to look after. We are not here to, like you said, to make money. We are here to make history. We are a very long-term vision. And the Dillon family, when Clarence Dillon, as you mentioned, an American citizen from San Antonio, Texas. He loved France. He loved the French wines. And when he came in France in 1935, he purchased Haut Brion. Later on, his son, Douglas Dillon, took over, and his daughter, mother of Prince Robert of Luxembourg, purchased La Mission Brion in 1983. And right now, Prince Robert with Quintus in 2011, they just want to make the greatest wine on earth. It's as simple as this. So what is the most important is the terroir. Terroir is everything. If you don't have the terroir, you cannot pretend to make one of the greatest wine on earth. It's impossible. And with Quintus, we have this possibility. What I really love with Quintus, the DNA is the feeling, the taste of fruitiness. So you have all these black and red fruits in the nose, in the palate brought by the Merlot. With the Dragon is more spherical, with Quintus is more rectilinear. Plus you have the Cabernet Franc with bringing freshness, more precision, more structure, floral aromas like violet, and also some spiciness. And all these are enveloped with a beautiful touch of, you feel this kind of sugary texture in your palate, in your mouth. And this, with the salinity of the quality of the terroir, it brings a beautiful one that even blind, you can recognize the DNA, the touch of Quintus. So that's why I really love this wine.
Coming back to the salinity, we had a question about that earlier, about how terroir can impart salinity or minerality. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because that clearly seems to be part of the signature of this.
Of course I do. It's limestone, the soil. If you have only sand, it will not be, you won't have salinity, fortunately. So terroir is everything.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of Quintus. On 42 hectares right now, we have a lot of plots facing the south, plots facing the north, plots facing east, and also facing west. So independently of the vintage, with the blending, with the quest of quality, we can always make a great wine. If your vineyard is only facing south, it's great. And I think it was great in the 80s, 90s. But now with the global warming, it will be more challenging. If your estate is have plots only facing north, but right now with the global warming, it might be a plus. But in the past, it was a disaster because you couldn't, in difficult vintages, you couldn't brought all your berries at maturity. With Quintus, we have this, it's a puzzle. So, that's why you work by parcel and you vinify them independently. And after you try to make the best combination possible. But the salinity definitely is brought by the soil, by the terroir.
We love your wines. We see a stylistic improvement in the wine since you've owned it. And we see it kind of, there's a resemblance to Chateau Brion, and we're wondering, do you use the exact same oak or do you use a different oak, or how do you make this in comparison to Chateau Brion?
It's the same oak. It's exactly the same oak. We use the same. We are the only four. You have only 4 estates in Bordeaux having their own coppery. You have Chateau Lafite, Chateau Margaux, Chateau Smith Lafite, and us. So we're using our own barrels. Yes. So part of it are coming from our own coppery. Usually we produce 80% of our barrels, and the 20 extra percent we purchase from Demtos et Taranceau. So for Quintus, usually we use our own barrels, which are, it's a partnership that is established since 1991 at Chateau Brion with Seguin-Moreau, if you know this company. So we use our own barrels, yes, but we haven't changed. It's really like I said, it's just the percentage of new oak that is important to work on. So we are around 25% in the Dragon and 35% in the Grand Vin.
So congratulations and bravo. You're outstanding.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Stan.
Now, really important question, Guillermo. What is your all-time favorite vintage of Quintus?
16.
16.
Yeah, definitely. Without any doubt. See, I answered straight
Great.
away.
So
Yes.
we got the good stuff.
I choose 16 because I love it. I'm a bit selfish myself. So I said I will spend a beautiful evening with you, but I want my Quintus 2016.
À votre santé alors.
I think that is a great note to finish on before we go to breakouts.
I think maybe it's time for me to say a last word before leaving you and having a great lunch in USA. The first one is just really to thank Eric, Jennifer, Tim, and Scott for everything you have done to make this tasting possible. It's great. We are the luckiest people on earth because we create something thanks to Mother Nature, just to please people, to gather people, to have a great moment with people that you like. to enjoy, to share emotions. And yes, we were talking about Quintus, but it's not only Quintus. It's Bordeaux. Bordeaux is Bordeaux. I'm a big fan of Bordeaux, all estates, all our friends from Chateau Lafitte, Chateau Mouton-en-Child, from Chateau Margaux, from Chateau Cheval Blanc, Chateau Ausone, Chateau Petrus. We're all friends and we all love our wines all together. Of course, I mentioned the big ones, but other wines also. And to have a part of our history of humanity in our cellar. That's all what matters. So I hope you enjoy the wines. We try again to do the best quality possible to please you, so that you can have a great moment with people you love, and that you are proud to open these bottles. And it was really great to be with you today here in Bordeaux. So and I hope to see you really, really soon in US.
Well, we hope to see you again. We want to thank you and Prince Robert and your generosity of time and organization, and of course of the wines themselves, which are beautiful and inspiring. And we all want to have more. So we're all 500 of us are gonna visit you in Chateau Quintus in the next 2
Yes,
years.
I think what we can do, Eric, we will send you some details in case people are coming to Bordeaux. You are always welcome. Us. It will be a pleasure to welcoming you. Don't hesitate, and we'll give you, if you have any information you want, more technical, we'll be pleased to answer your question.
Merci mille fois.
Merci à vous. Have a great
Enjoy the
lunch.
Magnum.
Have a
Open
good
that
night.
magnum.
And
Take
yeah,
care.
thank you so
Merci
much.
beaucoup.
Thank you so much.
Merci, merci,
Perfect.
merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much for organizing this. This was really fun, delicious, educational, and a great thing to do during a blizzard here in the Boston area.
I think it's important that one of the folks in our breakout room talked about how this gives exposure to lots of vineyards or chateaus where they've not had their wines before, and subsequently people buy a lot of the wines. So that was a generic comment, came from the Denver chapter. I just thought it was worth mentioning because it's certainly a good idea on the part of chateaus. So follow up with that.
Our breakout group agreed that these online tastings have been one of the silver linings of the COVID cloud, that it gives us a chance to meet folks from other chapters and to visit with vintners and, royalty from Luxembourg that we would not normally get to. And so we all hope that these continue, even once we start getting out and doing more in person. I hope we won't lose these.
Be careful what
Do
you
our
wish
best
for.
to keep them coming.